Hey guys, welcome back to Buffering Syndrome. I'm Eric, and I'm purposely off-center. We'll get to that in a second. Two things. First, hope you liked our new video intro. Had some friend do some work for us. It seems more legit and pretty awesome, so we're going to stick with that moving forward. Hope you like it. And also hope you enjoyed our first group discussion, which was our last video. We're definitely going to be doing that again, not in this video, but we are going to do it again. Greg, DJ, and myself have about 3 topics we've been bouncing around. See when we can get together a game and record, so we'll take it from there. But from this one, it's going to be mostly me, if not all me. We're going to do our first breakdown. I'm going to talk about a particular film franchise and a recent addition to that franchise, see if it holds up. And I think we're going to start with one we all know and love, and I'm going to go with the Alien franchise. So 3 things is what I'm going to hope to accomplish here. We're going to quickly gloss over everything that made the 1979 Alien movie a masterpiece. Then touch on Alien Covenant, which will be huge. I shouldn't say touch on. Alien Covenant will be the focal point of this video. We're going to talk about its advantages, its disadvantages, what it did right, what it did wrong. All opinion-based, of course, but just some thoughts. And then it's really going to be opinion-based on where we think that ranks in with the series and everything to that effect. So maybe you liked it, maybe you didn't, maybe you want to stick around and watch and see what we have to say. So let's do this. Should be fun.
Alright, so like I said, we're going to start with Alien, touch on a few bullet points before we break into what made Covenant so great, but I'm thirsty. Give me 1 second. This doesn't explode. Let's see what happens. So yeah, a little cheating this time. I took notes my last couple viewings, but I just have a few bullet points here we'll touch on. Before we full on Covenant, I have so much more text to cover, but just the 79 Alien. First of all, it was the very first in the franchise. So it had freedom to be original and nothing to adapt from or extend on, so I think that benefited it. You have the strong and now iconic lead of Ripley. What she did for, essentially Final Girls before really the slasher craze, and she was so much more than that because she was a smart female lead, and it just really drove the film around her, even though it's, only 6 characters. Which I also think was kind of an advantage to the original Alien, only the 6 main crew as opposed to Covenant, upwards in the teens. The iconic body horror scenes of the face hugger and then the chest burster, John Hurt, everyone knows that scene if you haven't seen the movie. It's magnificent, and it's something no film can compare to, no matter the horror, body horror, anything like that. It's just, they can try to replicate it, but they never really succeed. The pacing was terrific. The slow build, the checking of the frequency or the distress call they heard, and then playing on isolation and darkness and just the close calls and the elimination of the cast, not in so much of a quick they're there, they're gone. It would build to each, but you knew around every corner, like, all right, this person's not going to make it. They're just not. And it had the great, which I like really a lot, the great android twist. That, Ash was not ever really human. He was one of the original androids. Well, I guess if you get into the prequels, not technically original, but the first time they did something like this, and that his program was to, study the species, bring it back, understand it. The crew was expendable to him, and just that scene of just his head talking with the wiring was just really incredibly unique. The film itself is incredibly groundbreaking in both the sci-fi and the horror genres, and with Covenant being the 6th entry in the series, it was a little hard to live up to, but we will get into that in just a moment. So, Alien Covenant. Again, like I said, I have my notes. Bear with me. I'm going to be looking back and forth. There was some good, some bad, some great, and some really kind of questionable. So I'm going to cover as much as I can. Again, we share spoilers. Let's see what we got. Essentially, instead of having that main lead in Ripley, you kind of had 2. Daniels was the equivalent of Ripley. And she could hold her own, but she had that that connection that she had to the captain, even though he was in it for all of 5 seconds, and even the connection she had to Walter, the android. So you have her, you have Tennessee, which kudos to Danny McBride. Did not think he could pull off something this. It had more depth. He had a few comedic remarks, but he put a lot of emotion in it. It was really good to see. Then you had the androids. You had Walter, David, both portrayed by the awesome Michael Fassbender, and if you've seen Prometheus, you know what we're talking about here, there wasn't necessarily that slow build that you got in Alien. I mean, instantly, shit hits the fan, you know, when the ship hits the solar flares, the wreck, and they lose their captain in a horrible, horrible fire, like really brutal. So they're left with that, and then, you know, it follows the story arc of they get that distress signal, they go out to a planet they had no business going to, and then shit goes horribly wrong real fast. So it was much faster paced, and I appreciate that. It also upped the gore a lot. Maybe in a way to twist the modern audience as we become content with torture porn and body horror. So you had the scenes where they're being infected, I mean spewing out blood, getting body parts ripped off. I mean, the one dude gets his jaw clean ripped off by the xenomorph's tail. But let's talk about one of the probably best horror scenes in the last decade, and that's the spine burster. I mean, when Ledward gets sick, something's wrong. They quarantine him, and then, you know, just poking out of his spine. It is so, so disturbing, so visceral. And then this full-formed mini demon comes out. Like, and he goes limp. I mean, everything comes out of the back of his body, and he goes limp. And this thing's coming out and ripping people to shreds. And then you get the explosion in self-defense, and then people being burned alive. It was really, really intense and just brutal and fantastic when you think about it. It does hit the changing in pace when you get to that whole uncharted planet, and when they meet David. They get too Prometheus-y, I guess is the word. I don't know if that's what I'm trying to think of. But I feel like that didn't need to be forced. We got the Prometheus references with David just being there, or with Shaw, which was some great dynamic. Even some of the lines were brilliant. But, I don't know, they sort of explained everything down the line almost too obviously, and it slowed it down. The flute scene, we get it. That being said, they then redeemed it later when, you know, David went more psycho, serial killer. And even that combat he had with Walter, which was pretty freaking epic. This one had a larger main cast, so obviously the body count was high, and it got to play out like a true slasher at times. Like I said, more brutally, and it was, you know, an alien, but it played out like a slasher, especially the way they were dropping like flies. One of the biggest flaws I have with the movie is that for these colonists, these so-called smart characters, they made some pretty goddamn dumb decisions. One, to abandon your whole mission and just go to this other planet because it seems to have a lift interest. I get, okay, maybe they can convince themselves. I don't know, it seems a jump to abandon your entire mission. Everything you were set for this. So be it. The biggest issue I had was with Orem. When he sees David literally talking to the beast that ripped one of his crewmates' heads clean off, and then says, hey, don't shoot it. They shoot it anyway. He freaks out. So, okay, you want to get some answers. I get it. So then you follow him into this cave. You trust that he says this egg is safe. And then you get the face hugger in return. And eventually you reenact chest burster. Not nearly as good, but you get it. They touched on his faith a little bit. And he put his faith in a stranger that you knew you couldn't trust from the start. And it just seemed like something he wouldn't do. And it seemed off. It seemed like to make matters worse. So there was that. They did a good job with David building on the God complex, but he carried that over from Prometheus. So you've seen that, you know, they just build and build and build. So that works. Alright, I had a buddy of mine borrowed the movie. I had the Blu-ray copy, he hadn't seen it. And going back and watching the trailers, he brought up something I kind of didn't think about, is that I feel like, and he's right, they gave some stuff away in the trailer, which most movies do. But to show as much of the xenomorph as they did, especially that scene where it's trying to bang its head through the glass of the carrier as they're trying to get off the planet. Okay, we get it, it's big, it's badass. But it took a little bit of the thrills away just because you now saw it. You know, maybe you show a condense, a quick flash, something, yeah, we knew it was coming, and I get you wanted to hype how big and bad it was, but it did lose something when the actual movie was going on because, I don't know, just you knew that was coming. I feel like that could have been a more frightful scene. Also, I'm torn on this. There's a scene where they're running through the corridors, and all of a sudden you're put in the POV of the alien. And it's a little scrambly, and it's kind of cool to see if that is how they see it. That was unique. But at the same time, you lost the suspense and the thrill and the terror just because, you know, there's not the unknown that you're running from as a crew member. Like, now we've seen it, okay? It, again, just lost something. And maybe trying a little bit too hard, but I do trust Ridley Scott, so I'll back off on that one. Nice job on the false final confrontation on the carrier where she had used the crane to essentially crush the bitch.
And then it led back to, when they're in the loading docks with the trucks, and they have to use that to plot out that's actually the true final confrontation. But in reality, I really like that essentially David got to play the main villain rather than the xenomorph itself. They did a nice job referencing Alien, Aliens, and Prometheus. They all kind of got their moments in there. You watch the movie, you know what I mean. I don't have time, unfortunately, to show you, but it's set up for one more, and I definitely think that one more is needed, because there's still a lot of unanswered questions. And I'm worried that this film, with it meaning to be a prequel, almost played too much as a regular sequel in the intensity and the transaction, because now it looks like you're going to have this one, you're going to have one more than the regular Alien, and then the pacing's going to slow back down for that regular Alien. It just doesn't seem to flow. I don't know, it seems a bit off. Maybe new characters, that works, but that, everything being said, and there's so much more I can touch on, maybe we'll put it in the description, I don't know. It is a good movie, and it's rewatchable, it's kind of long, and the cinematography is brilliant. Like, just watch it for the set pieces alone is amazing. Michael Fassbender's performance as both Walter and David is probably the highlights of the single performances, but I mean, it's noted. But I guess my overall thing here is that it doesn't quite reach the level of Alien. Maybe it wasn't trying to, maybe it doesn't need to, because Prometheus obviously didn't, and it did its own unique, more sci-fi thing, but I've learned to appreciate that. And this, I think, was a nice bridge. It tended more towards the Alien and the Aliens we knew, but it had enough where it could carry it over. I don't know where to put this on a scale. I mean, better than Prometheus simply for the pacing and the fast pace and the actual terror. It felt more like a horror. Better than Alien 3, better than Alien Resurrection, but if you've seen them, it's not saying much. Doesn't reach Alien, but nothing really does. Where it compares to Aliens, I'm going to get crap for this, but I think I'll go Covenant only because Aliens was more of an action movie, like pure on action. Covenant was definitely more of a horror. It was a high intensity and high action horror, but it got back to the horror roots, and for that I appreciate it. Like, yeah, so without me fully repeating myself and looking more like an idiot than I already do, I think we'll end it there. So without doing a whole extra scene and everything, let us know what you thought, because we can always revisit this as it's came out in 2017. It's still 2017. It's a fairly new movie, so drop us a line in the comments. Let us know what you thought about Covenant or the Alien franchise as a whole. Maybe you hate it. Don't know why you would, but maybe you do. Maybe you think I'm way off and I'm praising this movie or too much, or I'm trashing it too much. Just tell me. I'm curious. So yeah, this is our first BS breakdown, as we're going to call them. Don't know what films we're picking up next. We have so many ideas. But I think we're going to pick it up with a group conversation next time. We'll bring Greg back around, DJ back around. Who knows who else will be here, but I have a couple ideas. And with October coming up, we're definitely going to get more into horror gaming, horror movies, my favorites. So you have that to look forward to, but hope you enjoyed this rundown of Alien Covenant. Thanks for watching. I'm Eric from Buffer and Syndrome. I'm out.